As we're facing an increasing threat of climate change, the voices of denial and misinformation grow louder and louder.
There is no climate crisis.
Yeah, I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it.
I point out that we're not in the midst of a mass extinction.
That seems like a problem. That's a big problem. Doesn't that seem like a big problem? Seeing that, I would see why people would freak out.
Again, and this is so we can't sit here and do period research in real time. I'm showing.
Right, but you do need contradicting
yes. Oh no,
statements.
Absolutely.
We need to call out misinformation and those people that are distracting us from science. As for instance in this video, where our friendly scientist Björn Lomborg got given a platform of over 14 million people on the Joe Rogan YouTube channel to spin a rather convenient narrative. Featuring his new book False Alarm, Lomborg is telling us a story around how climate change definitely isn't as bad as we might think. Just to be fair, he's not dismissing the very existence of climate change, he's just downplaying its impact. What the Joe Rogan video isn't showcasing is the fact that Lomborg's work has been widely critiqued, amongst others by Nobel Prize winner and economist Joseph E. Stiglitz, who called the book downright dangerous were to succeed in persuading anyone that there was merit in its arguments. His arguments mostly rely on fluffy or outdated statistics and are not backed by scientific consensus on the reality of climate change. Take this example where he's talking about how there's actually an optimum level of global warming, which is 3.7 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels. Let's explain why this is nonsense. Because we've already raised about 1 degree since pre-industrial levels. But the last time we saw 2 degrees temperature rises were more than 3 million years ago. And at that time, sea level were 10 to 20 meters higher than they are today. Scientist Stefan Rahmstorff have been illustrating how climate change isn't as linear as we might think, but it will start accelerating as things start changing. He's explained that we have about enough ice on Earth to raise the sea levels with about 65 meters. If we are to put this into perspective, this is about the same height as a 20-story building. At the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose about 120 meters based on just 5 degrees Celsius warming. If you want to know more about this particular topic, I recommend that you check out Greta Thunberg's book, The Climate Book. I've left a link for you in the description below. Taking a step back, Björn Lomborg are essentially asking that we try out raising the temperatures to a level that we've never experienced as a species on planet Earth before. I'm just confused about that.
How do we find a way that means the vast amount, so the 6.5 billion people who are not rich can actually get a great living by the end of the century, and we can also fix climate change? And that's only going to happen if we find the technological breakthroughs, not by telling everyone, I'm sorry, could you do with less? Not only is that not going to win any elections in the long run, but it's also just not going to be possible to convince China, India, Africa to do that.
Okay, so to succeed in green progress, we need China and India on board. And we also need to make sure that no one is trapped in poverty and we can all live decent lives. And we agree on that. But he's missing a crucial point. Because if we look at China, they're emitting almost twice as much as America. And that's true. But that's not the interesting fact. The interesting fact is looking at the richest part of the population, so-called high emitters, where we can see that the richest top 10% are emitting almost twice as much in America compared to Europe and China. And this is not me or anyone not liking America. There's lots of good stuff we can say about America too, but it is just recognizing the richest 1% of America are emitting as much as the total bottom 50% of America. And that's just screwed. So why is this important? Well, it's important because there's a straight correlation between wealth and emissions. So Lomborg is living in a fairy tale world, claiming that as long as we keep innovating, everything will be well and good. He's essentially ignoring decades of market research on how we have built our society and how that correlates with market failures. He should instead be focused on failing leadership and how we are lacking policies being reinforced, making sure that we're not having this insane consumption of fossil fuels. He also seemed pretty oblivious to the fact that elections around the world are being bought. They're being bought by that top 1% that are emitting more than anyone else, giving the widest possible opportunity for emissions and wealth distributions to be completely screwed.
Your point was to basically say what people are worried about is that there's going to be a lot more hurricanes.
Yes.
Well, actually, so the best evidence seems to indicate, that was one of the points that you said, that there will probably be fewer hurricanes, but they will be stronger. And overall, stronger is worse than fewer is better, which means that overall there'll be slightly more damage.
Right.
Again, a little bit naive because he's looking at systemic problems in isolations, and hurricanes are absolutely just a tiny corner of the bigger picture. So he's largely ignoring other impactors, which is things such as pollution, ocean acidification, rising sea levels based on melting Arctic ice, biodiversity loss, which all of it together comes with a mounting impact.
What you're actually seeing, if you look at the total cost, for instance, on hurricane impacts and all kinds of climate impacts, it's actually going down, not up. So every time there's a hurricane, all trucks will go to other states, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things that don't get damaged. We can also build better, as you talked about, with houses and so on. So we have a lot of ways to reduce this. But what is happening is it'll reduce slightly less fast because of global warming. Again, not the end of the world, but a problem.
So just want to point out that he's mainly talking about the impact in the US, which is a little bit of a strange representation because climate change is hitting unevenly all over the globe. He's talking about a decrease in impact, but what kind of impact he's not really clarifying. If you're talking about financial impact, take Hurricane Ian that hit in the end of 2022, that had financial losses on Cuba and Florida for around $100 billion US. So it's it's the biggest financial loss ever recorded. Then there's the loss in terms of human lives, where the developing countries are paying a much higher price than those of us based in the UK, US, or Europe, for instance. So while Elon Musk and his buddies are flying around in spaceships and rockets, showing off their wealth and ignorance, let's not get fooled and think eventually we can just move to another planet.
You're simply saying it is a problem, but it's not our biggest problem.
It's a problem in the sense that it slows down progress, right?
Lomborg is so bought into this idea that progress is God. As long as we have progress, everything will be fine. It seems like Amazon rainforest is just endlessly full of trees, and the oil well is as deep as we can possibly dig it. But that's not reality. I do agree that we have more problems than just the climate, but he is proposing a false idea that we have to choose between economic growth and addressing climate change, when the truth is we will need a bit of both. The fact is that investing in climate change reductions can help bring prosperity and bring us on a path to green economic growth. In this video, Ben Shapiro is claiming that there is no chance that 86 million people will die as a consequence of climate change by the end of the 21st century. If you find that intriguing, go ahead and watch it now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you there.